All right, good morning, everybody. If you would please stand and join us in the pledge in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Teresa, you want to start with roll call?
Yep. Commissioner Coring,
Yes, I'm here.
Commissioner Brecken,
Here.
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine, here. Commissioner Hogue.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is open forum. Looks like we've got 3 people today. First on, I guess, Lisa Neville.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am Lisa Neville. I am the one who wrote the 3 statements that I'm sure that you all have received. I want to give all my kudos to Rosemary Franzine. Thank you so much for standing beside me, behind me, and doing what everybody else should have done and listened, instead of automatically doing judgment. I'm asking about ditch 5 to get it cleaned and done, but I am not going to petition, being that it was illegally filled by somebody who wanted to create a duck pond. And then the mess that was in the back of them rerouting ditch 5 when they were putting in some developments back there. That is what I'm asking for. My impact statement was along with it, along with the east and west ditches, to get those done, that they haven't been done in quite some time, which I had documented. I also have my pictures that I can, if anybody needs to ask for, I do have those that I can send for justifying everything. But that is all I have to say, and I would like to get this resolved so I can get a pasture back and get my animals out there and get them to eat. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Doug Kern.
Doug Kern, Crow Wing Township. I just wanted to say thank you that you guys set up that meeting, with me, with Doug and Paul. I am running for a new job. You guys probably heard that, and I was expecting our House member to be here today, but I guess he's not. Because of what's going on, there's legislation that Carrie Rood has authored and is sending through, looking at the stuff that was presented to you. And I just applaud her for doing that, because we don't want anything like what we had in 2020 ever happen again. So, and I just really, really appreciate you guys taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, John Middleton.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you. My name is John Middleton, and maybe some of you recognize me. We've been working on an access issue which we've had for our property. We originally contacted Crow Wing County back on in the actually it was October of 18. My files, and we contacted Mr. Simonson, and he's been Land Services and Gary have been fabulous in helping us get to this point, and I want to thank them for their efforts as well. But my concern is this: basically we've been without access to our property for about 7 years now, and I'm not getting any younger. And I used to enjoy duck hunting and deer hunting out there. And that's what we have it for. That's what we call it, Nelson Lake Preserve. We appeared before this committee for the first time back in April of 19. Was the first, when we petitioned, to the county of Crow Wing. And then we also had a series of different meetings and a site visit to our property out there. And for some reason, it appears as though we keep getting sand thrown in our gear. We thought we could get some conclusion to this last fall. Obviously, COVID had some impact on this whole thing as well, but we've had meetings where we were trying to schedule with the committee, and for one reason or another, attorneys couldn't make it or not. We thought we were scheduled for today to meet again with their committee here. And I have my legal counsel here, but that was changed now to sometime in May, maybe. I don't know for sure yet. But at any rate, I'm just here to implore the committee to help us reach conclusion on this thing, so we can get access to the property, which is currently being used as a dump, which we need to get attention to that, not with this group, but obviously in a different court, to get our land cleaned up and back to where we can use it again. So thank you again for your time, and I would again implore this group to help me, or help my partners and myself gain access back to our property.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that. David Hurt, here on behalf of John Middleton. So we did want to request that the matter brought and be scheduled before the board as soon as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we take no action at open forum, but there is a slot on the agenda for the county attorney, so we could have some discussion then.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for open forum? Okay, next is review and approve the February 22nd Crow Wing County Board minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese?
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Hall.
Aye. Motion passes. Review today's agenda. Are there any additions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine to approve today's agenda. Therese, if you would.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye. Motion passes. Next on the agenda, consent agenda. Are there any questions, concerns?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine, second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you would.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, let's see, are we, yep. Next on our agenda is closed session to discuss pending litigation, Horseshoe Lake property owners versus Crow Wing County. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to go into closed session under Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3B.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese?
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye. All right.
So take a minute to
Yeah,
clear the room.
At this time, we'll,
Now, Therese,
Just 1 second. Hold on. Okay.
okay, we are back in open session. Next on our agenda is the resolution.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion to approve the resolution reconsidering and remanding the preliminary and final plat approvals for the Hideaway Bay land use application. What this says, there's a lot of whereases on here. I'll just read the last three unit pieces here. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners, Crow Wing County, Minnesota hereby reconsiders its approvals of the preliminary and final plats and remands this matter back to the Planning Commission for further proceedings. Be it further resolved that the Planning Commission shall prepare findings in support of the approval of the preliminary and final plats, provided B. Dirt LLC satisfies all applicable ordinance requirements, and be it further resolved that the Board of Commissioners will reach a final decision on the preliminary and final plats upon completion of the Planning Commission remand. I so move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Barrows. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Brecken. Therese, if you would.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine. Aye. Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
So number 8.
Item 8, Land Services.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Our first agenda item is we have a request from a Rocky, I'm going to get this name wrong again, so Rocky, if you're here, Gossi, I believe. My apologies if I got that wrong. It is a request to amend the official land use map at the location of southwest of the northeast quarter, St. Matthias Township in Crow Wing County. This is a request to change from ag forestry to rural residential 20 involving approximately 39.8 acres on parcel 903-60518. All right, if we have probably packet page 66 available, we can take a look at that. All right, there's a good shot. Thank you. All right, so there's a subject property outlined in red. It's ag forestry. It's, again, it's almost a 40. It's 38 some odd acres in rural St. Matthias Township, southeast of Brainerd. As you can see on the east side, it's rural residential 10 in the brown color, and then on the west side and north and south, it's all ag forestry. There's a couple of blue blobs to the very south and northwest that are in the shoreline district. But the request here, again, is to go to rural residential 20 for a future split of that property. I think the applicant would like to split it north-south with access coming off from the north off of 10th Street. So that's a bit of the request.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, okay, so put that map back up there. So a question on the map. Okay, so looking on the north there, that's all agriculture, but it looks like those are 20-acre parcels, correct?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Coring, I believe those are 20-acre parcels. I don't have the acreage up on the screen. Those might be, yeah, I think those are 20s, if that's a full 40.
They are 20s, because that's, if you look at the 40, and then you look on top of that 40, there's two 20s there. So why couldn't he have, and by the way, I did attend the St. Matthias Township meeting, and the town board is okay with this split. So, but I'm just asking some questions. Why can't he just split it into two 20-acre parcels right there and just leave it ag?
Commissioner Coring, because the minimum acreage size for ag forestry is 35 acres. So going down to 20 would either need a variance or this land use amendment.
Okay, so then why, Mr. Chair, so why are those top ones 20-acre parcels, but they're still green like they're ag forestry?
Commissioner Coring, that is because those are likely existing legal non-conforming lots that were there before we did a comprehensive zoning change of the entire county in 2011. So we placed the zoning, the new zoning for ag forestry over the top of existing parcels that were legal at the time.
Okay. like I said, Mr. Chair, I was in attendance virtually at the St. Matthias meeting when Mr. Gossi was there, and the town board had no objection to doing this. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to accept the land use map amendment change.
Second.
All right, great. Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Franzine. Treese?
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, Ryan.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Recently, the county board approved updates to our recreational use plan. That was on February 22nd of 2022. And that plan includes recommendations for future trail developments that various user groups and clubs would like to see in the near future. And one of those recommendations by the clubs that's in our plan is to find a safe route connection from the Miller Black Bear Trail to nearby cities like Crosby, Ironton, Riverton, for the most part. And I believe this request has informally been in the works for quite a while, and now we officially have it in a plan. And this request is different than a normal trail request, as it might involve various ownerships. Some folks might be for it, some might be against it. And so the ask today is to hire a third-party facilitator to facilitate this process for up to a cost of $30,000. And that quote was provided by Dovetail, who actually wrote our original recreation plan. So they're very familiar with our area and our processes. And then also to apply for an IRRB grant to hopefully, if successful, cover half the cost. So it would cost the county $15,000 and then $15,000 provided by the grant if we're successful.
Mr. Chair.
Paul?
Yeah, so my question is the county does have a process when somebody comes with an application like this. I guess I'm baffled why would we go out and have a third party do this when we have our own process, which has worked for us in the past. I think there's been people that have been all in favor of it before, and some have been opposed before. But we have a very thorough process with lots of public input. So why? I guess I don't understand. I'm a no on this unless somebody can convince me why it's a good idea.
So our normal process involves the user group identifying a clear route, and they essentially pick the route, they bring it to us, we evaluate it, run it through a public comment. In this case, the ATV club's preferred route is through a state recreation area where there's no motorized vehicles allowed. And so if they were to pick that route and we run it through our normal process, even if we approve it on our end, that would go to the DNR to see if they would approve it. And if our process doesn't involve all the different stakeholders and a much more intensive public comment period, looking at just a whole bunch of different factors, the DNR might say, well, we're not going to accept that as an outcome. So it's just a little more intensive and unique in this case.
Does that answer?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, that's not a good enough answer for me. I think we need to go through our normal process, submit it to the DNR, and if they approve it, fine. If they don't, then we'll have to go a different route. But I still am not convinced why a third party. I think we've got tremendous staff here, and we've done good jobs in the past. I think we can handle the job, so I'll be a no vote on this.
Any other questions?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Coring, I guess I'm speaking in favor of it because I think that establishing a third party and a committee that works with that third party to figure out where is the best and safest route to get into these communities is important. I don't think that we should go with just the idea that there's one trail and that DNR can say yes or no to it. There might be another route that doesn't even impact the recreation area that would be more friendly to all parties. And the user group or the subcommittee, so I guess is what we're calling it, that would be involved would be made up of all these different user groups, so they would have their initial input into finding what would be the best trail to get the ATVers into the Crosby, Ironton, Cuyuna area. Then it would come back to go through, it would still have to go through our county process, but then we would have a trail that those user groups have had some input. We'd get the public input, as Ryan noted, following that, and then we would have, I think, a better outcome and more people happy with the project than if we just go with one idea and let the DNR decide that. Because it might not even be in the DNR's purview, depending on where they decide what trail they would decide to endorse. So I would be a yes in this situation. The one question I do have for you, Ryan, is you're applying for a grant. Do we know when they would decide whether we got that grant or not? Because there might be, we'd like to get this resolved.
It's usually several months on the turnaround, but since the grant is a 50% match, we could begin with, say, cover some of the costs up front, and then if we get approved, we could use the grant dollars on the back end of the project.
So what if we don't? Then we're on the hook for $30,000.
Correct, yep.
And that's my point. I'm a little concerned about that.
That's Mr. Chair, that is my point. I'm not in favor of this.
I'm only going to add, Paul, that because of the challenge here and our process does work great when we're just dealing with a trail across tax forfeited property. But in this case, we've got multiple user groups in this area, and we're also dealing with cities, townships, potentially state properties, and it's going to consume a lot of time, but to have a third-party, non-biased vendor that is truly taking time to look at the best option, I think it's money well spent. And this has been in the works for several years. I think it's just recently, back in '21, been more of a formal request. And the likelihood this potentially could then go to a DNR process as well. So I just think with the number of sensitive areas that we're dealing with and user groups, I would rather see someone like Dovetail take on this challenge.
So, Mr. Chair, so this is your district. So
Right.
with those comments, it sounds like you're supporting this.
Yeah, I am, Paul, and I just think it's a better process given the challenges. Most trail applications we don't have that many challenges, so they're a little bit straightforward. This one's far from that, so.
Mr. Chair, then another question, that 30,000, what fund would that come out of? Would that be our timber sales fund? That's not levy dollars.
We have funds in our recreation fund to cover that, yep.
Mr. Chair, you know what, out of respect for you and your district, and I'm guessing that, well, I'm not guessing, I know that you've been working on this. And if you think this is the right thing to do, I'm going to go with your judgment, even though I don't like it. Out of respect for you and your judgment, I'm going to, I'll go along with this then.
Thank you, Paul. Believe me, I wish it was a little easier, but this one is like I said, creates a lot of challenges. And I just want to make sure it's done. Not that our staff couldn't do it right, but it's going to bog them down for 6 months to a year to get this process, our process done, and then potentially hand it off to the DNR. So I don't like to spend the money either, but I think there's a good chance that we'll get the IRRB grant. So it just seems the right thing to do here. Was that in a form of a motion, Paul, or?
I can make it in the form of a motion, yes. I would move to accept the request for board action on the hiring of, can you put the name in? What was the name again?
Dovetail?
Dovetail, okay. That would be in the form of a motion, Mr. Chair.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Coring, seconded by Commissioner Barrows. Treese, if you would.
And just to confirm, it's the resolution that's on the screen,
Oh,
correct?
yeah.
Yes, it
Thank you.
is.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Hogg?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. All right, next up, Debbie, you're.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. I have a update for you today on redistricting. If you recall, we've talked about redistricting a few times over the past year and a half here, and we're at the next stage of this process. So I want to kind of give you a little bit of an update, and then there will be a little bit of action that we will need to do today as well. Go to the next. Perfect. Maybe.
Is the thing in there?
Is the thing in there? No, it's not here. There it is. Okay, so just as a reminder, redistricting is this process that we go through once a decade after each census that redraws boundaries of election districts to ensure the whole purpose of redistricting is to ensure that equal representation or equal population is being represented in each of the districts. When we talk about what redistricting looks like, it has a time frame that we go by. I think she's hiding under the desk now.
Oh, my.
Teresa, you're a do-it-all today. I am just super impressed. So just a little bit of an update on where we're at on the time frame. The legislature did not have any legislative action that was taken with regard to drawing redistricted guidelines. So the courts did release congressional and legislative plans on February 15th, which was statutorily the date that the legislature needed to have the redistricting done by, or else the courts needed to step in. Knowing the timeframes were short, the courts had already appointed a special panel who had already held many hearings and considered several plans. They did release their plans on February 15th. And now the next stage of this process is cities and townships have to either reestablish or make new district boundaries by March 29th. So all of our cities and townships are currently in the process of redrawing their lines or reestablishing the lines that they had. The counties, again, we are the last piece of this puzzle. So once the municipalities have completed their deadlines or their redistricting, the counties will then redraw the county commissioner district lines, which has to be done by April 26th is our deadline to allow for federal and state and county filings for office to open on May 17th for our state primary, which is August 9th. And this year, the state general election is November 8th. This year's election is the latest it can possibly be. Remember, Election Day is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That's why we're seeing the date as of November 8th. So here's just a quick view of what the new congressional districts looks like. You'll see there have been a few changes in Congressional District 8, particularly to the west and a little bit to the south. The Crow Wing County is still contained within Congressional District 8, that boundary right now is now our southern border, is that southern border there in our area. If we look at the,
Oh, you ready?
sorry, yep, next slide. This is our new legislative district, and you can kind of see, I know this map is quite confusing, but we're right in this area, and this blue pullout is the part that is Crow Wing County. You can see our boundaries here reflect now that we will have 2 Senate districts and 3 legislative districts that will be representing Crow Wing County. For the last decade, we had 1 Senate district and 2 legislative districts, 2 House districts. Now we will have the north and south, basically this eastern side of Crow Wing will be in District 6A, which you see extends up through Cass and into Itasca County as well. 6B has been compressed a little bit. There's a little bit of a change. Previously, I believe 6B kind of went this way. 6B now is basically Jenkins down to Baxter, and then, or Crow Wing Township, excuse me. And then 10A will be this portion here in the southern part of the county. 10A also encompasses some of Morrison County, Mille Lacs, and Aiken County. So the districts have changed significantly legislatively in Crow Wing County, but that is the view of where our House districts now sit. We have to do county redistricting if a few things have happened. Number one, we may have to look at it if a precinct boundary that was a commissioner district is no longer there. If a municipality changes what their boundaries are, it could impact what a county commissioner district line is. If we have some annexations that have occurred that make our county commissioner districts non-contiguous, if you recall, some of the considerations that we have to have in drawing commissioner districts is that they have to be as compact and contiguous as possible. The biggest one that usually causes the main needs for change is if district populations have changed significantly or changed enough to put you out of imbalance or have had some shifts. So new information here in Crow Wing County. Basically, we have to try to make our districts as equal in population as possible, and it cannot vary from 10% of what the average population is. If you're outside of that district average population, you have to make some changes. So after the 2020 census, our new population is 66,123. That compares with 2010's census of 62,500. So according to the census, we grew a little over 3,000 people. That means the average population for each of your districts now needs to be in that 13,225 range, or that 10% threshold. It has to be within 11,902 to 14,548. And if you look at where we're at with our existing district lines, this was taking the new populations in our existing districts, you'll see the ones that are in yellow are outside of that 10% threshold. So districts 2 and 4 are a little bit over that 10% threshold. They had more of the population growth occurring in that area. District 5 is a little bit below what that 10% threshold is. So based on those principles, and in order to correct that imbalance, we need to shift populations in districts 2, 4, and 5 to bring everything into compliance. So our next steps of the process is that the board will need to adopt a redistricting plan to bring all the districts within that 10% threshold to equalize that population. And in order to do so, you have to hold a public hearing prior to adopting the plan. That public hearing has to have at least 3 weeks of published notice prior to adopting it. And what we are here today for is to set that public hearing. We can't hold the public hearing until the cities and townships have completed all of their work, because what they do could have impact on how your county commissioner districts could be drawn or redrawn. So we have to wait until after March 29th to hold the public hearing. I am suggesting that you set that public hearing date for April 12th. You can consider and adopt that plan all at the same time. You will have to have it complete by April 26th. So at the April 12th meeting, we would bring you a plan to consider for redistricting, and then you would take public testimony if there is any, and then you could take action to adopt that plan. As I said, it has to be done by April 26th, so by using the 12th, it gives us one more meeting in March that we could have some additional consideration if we needed to look at other plans or whatever it might be as well. And then we'll make notification to the public. That includes publication of all the maps, all the new district lines, public notices that will be sent out. And every household, every voter household of registered voters in Crow Wing County will also get a notification card that tells them what their new congressional districts, legislative districts, commissioner districts, polling places, whatever it might be, would be. So we'll have that information and that notification that goes out to the public prior to May 7th when filings open for office. Any questions? If not, I'd look for a motion to set a public hearing for April 12th, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to set the public hearing for April 12th, 2022.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you...
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Holt?
Aye.
Thank you.
Debbie.
ARPA.
Oh, no, okay.
Sorry.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Today before you is a request for board action to allocate additional ARPA funds towards some internal projects as well as 2 broadband projects. For the internal projects, we're looking to allocate $2.359 million towards projects related to mental health, violence, helping with court backlog, among other projects. These are internal programs with an end date of December 31st, 2024, or when funding runs out. There is a listing in your packet of the funding that was approved or discussed at the last Budget Committee meeting that they will be limited to. We also have before you 2 broadband projects totaling $1.229 million for the county's portion. These 2 are being brought forward because the local partners have agreed to their match, as well as CTC in this case for the 2 projects have also agreed to their match. The total cost for the projects is $1.943 million. Of that, the $1.229 is what we would be putting forward as a county. With that, I stand for any questions or motion.
Questions?
I'll make the motion to approve the use of ARPA funds for the attached list and internal projects programs with all programs and approved staffing ending by December 31, 2024, or when approved funds have been exhausted, and further authorize the grants of broadband expansion in the attached broadband proposal.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Franzine. Roll call.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Holt?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Nick.
Mr. Chair, before we go, I'd like to just acknowledge Ms. Westbrook, who's on the line from CTC, and thank you for the partnership that you provided. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you for the support. We will get the plow in the ground as fast as we can this spring, so we make sure we get those broadband services turned up this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, County Sheriff.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good morning. And my voice, of course, is going to go out as soon as I start talking. Just a couple items I wanted to bring your attention that we've had going on recently, and we're very excited about. We had a Skate with a Cop activity this last Sunday at the local arena here in Brainerd. And we haven't had a lot of, truly just dedicated events, with local law enforcement. And we partnered with Brainerd and Baxter on this, kind of short notice, and it was an idea what one of our deputies brought up. And it was absolutely a success. I mean, we had a lot of kids there. We had one of the local local teams that was just going to practice the next hour, so they actually stopped in early to get some cookies. But it was a wonderful success, and I'd like to thank everybody that helped make it happen on such short notice, and also we're looking forward to next year. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then this last weekend, we also had the polar plunge. The numbers were right around 250 people. We've been involved with that, oh gosh, for years and years. We use our dive team equipment to help cut the hole, and then we always have staff on hand on the jump day also. So they were able to raise, I want to say their goal was 50,000. I think they ended up hitting 70,000. So a lot of money going directly to Special Olympics on that. With that, I would entertain any questions, comments, concerns that you have.
Any questions for our sheriff?
All right, thank you.
Item 11, county attorney.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I don't have a lot today, but I did want to mention that yesterday, for the first time since May of 2020, we no longer have to wear masks in the judicial center or in the courtrooms. It was lifted, so I think that's another sign that things are starting to turn around a little bit in the COVID deal, and so we all consider that a pretty big move for the court systems, and hopefully we'll get back into the courtrooms more normally as we were before the COVID virus pandemic hit. With that, I can answer any questions anybody may have of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Paul.
are we going to have a discussion about that Cartway Trail? I mean, I think it's, with all due respect to lawyers, I think it's time to take it out of the hands of lawyers and put it in some, well, I'm trying not to insult anybody, but put it in the big boys' hands and just have the county board make the decision. This whole lawyer thing, I think sometimes it gets to be kind of a money-making proposition. I'm going to extend it. I'm going to extend it. I'm going to extend it. This poor guy's been waiting for 2 years. This is ridiculous. This isn't how we operate our county. And I believe I'd like to have our county attorney give me what is the legal. I believe the county board. It's up to the county board where when somebody has petitioned for a cartway, the county board decides where it's going to go in, and that's the end of that. Is that the way it works, Don?
When someone petitions a cartway, Commissioner Coring, ultimately the county board makes a decision on one, if the petitioner qualifies for consideration, two, assuming that they do qualify for consideration, what the appropriate route would be unless there's an agreed upon one. Then three, what the damages to the affected landowners would be upon the establishment of the cartway, without going into lots of detail because I've presented most of that to the board before. So it's been in front of you two, for sure, times, maybe three times. The last time we were in front of you, the parties had indicated they wanted an opportunity to mediate, and so we pulled it from the agenda and waited to hear back from them. Mediation was not successful. And then I coordinated with the attorneys for both sides for availability to bring the matter back before the county board as soon as I could, which I believe is the first meeting in May, currently scheduled. I don't remember which the date is, and I haven't put it on your agenda yet. That's just what was agreed to by both the attorneys. I know that petitioners would like to see that there earlier. I've had some discussion with individuals on that particular request. The attorney for the landowner is unavailable the first 2 weeks of March. Therefore, I can't bring it forward or even consider bringing it forward earlier without having an opportunity to speak to that attorney. For instance, if I would have put it on today's agenda and you all would have acted without the attorney of the petitioner having been given fair notice, if that would be appealed to the district court, it would be an automatic reversal and we would be right back here starting all over again. So right now, the county's hands are tied. Both sides had previously agreed to a May setting. The petitioners are requesting for an earlier setting. Until I have an opportunity to speak with the attorney for the landowner, I can't do anything about trying to bring it forward earlier. Once I can speak with the attorney for the landowner, we'll see what we can do. and I am keeping both sides apprised of all conversations I've had with either side. That's the best update I can give you to the board today, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Corn.
Okay, I guess I don't understand it, Don. I'm confused. I mean, so how it works is I want a cartway. So I petitioned to the county board because the county board is the governing body, not the county attorney, the county board. I petition, then why are you involved in this? I know you're trying to mediate, and God bless you for that. But really, this is the decision of the county board. Why wouldn't it just come? Why do we have to check with each side's attorney? We have a petition. If we have a petition before us, wouldn't we just move forward with that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Corn, I'm involved to the extent I'm involved because you, the county board, asked me to shepherd this process through and position it so that the county board would be in the position to make its decisions. Should you wish to ask me not to be involved, I can back off and one of you can shepherd it through if you want to. But once we are where we're at, and I did offer to mediate, I've met with both sides and their attorneys. Neither side is here, nor would they have an opportunity for input at this phase of our county board meeting. And so I don't really want to go into any details in regards to who did what, who said what, how we got here. All I can say is that you asked me to help shepherd this through to position it where you could be in a position to make a decision, and that's what I'm attempting to do to the best of my simple country abilities. Simple country lawyer abilities, excuse me, I forgot a word there.
Right, right. Well, I actually think it's time to remand it back to the Land Services Department, have them come up with the best route and come up with a proposal to the county board, and then the county board make a decision on that, I think.
I believe
like to hear what the rest of the
if I
county
may
board-
interrupt Commissioner Corrin, I believe
Yes.
Land Services is in a position to make recommendations to the county board. They have been for some time. The landowner has indicated that they have gone out and hired experts. They wish to have an alternative route considered, all of which, to my understanding, has been presented to the board before. And as soon as we can get it in front of the board, the first decision is what will the route be? The determination's already been, this qualifies, what will that route be? And then we would most likely set a second date in regards to argument from both sides to what the damages would be. You then would make detailed findings first on the first meeting on why the route you selected, what that was and why, and then what the damages are, how you determine that. If people aren't happy, it goes to district court. So the county board needs to make sure they have the time to have the detailed findings required so that if there is a second phase, i.e. an appeal to the courts, that the county's decision is defendable.
Well, Mr. Chair, where do we go from here? I guess I've made my position kind of clear. I just think 2 years is just unacceptable. The guy is here. He's concerned that he's going to die before he's able to have this resolved for his children and his family and his grandkids. I mean, come on, you know, these lawyers, what's up with these lawyers where I'm unavailable? Well, I don't care if you're going to get here and do it the right way, I think. I don't know. Where do you think we need to go, Mr. Chair? Do you have any thoughts?
Well, one, I agree, Paul. This has went on for far too long. My understanding is that the attorney has suggested this be moved out 3, maybe 4 times. If we are going to stick, with the schedule, I would only say we don't even consider another postponing and setting a new date, because we've kicked the can down the road long enough. I think all of us were out on an on-site, so we do have a pretty good feel for what we're dealing with. I would agree, Paul. I think it's time. Ultimately, I believe this is going to end up back at our table for the decision, and I'm I'm not sure right now there's much they could present that I would change my mind as far as how we're going to move forward, so.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I would like to throw out that I agree with everything that's being said by Commissioner Coring and yourself. I think it is time to get this going, and I would ask Don, once this attorney gets back from his whatever leave he's on, that you would express the wishes of the board, and I'm assuming we're all sort of in agreement on this one, that we would like to move this as quickly as possible, not waiting until the May time frame that he has put out there, but that he understands that we are ready to deal with this situation, and we're tired of it being put off.
I will do that, but I don't want to leave the board with a misimpression. I spoke with lawyers for both sides of the issue and found the first date both were available. I suggested multiple dates before that May whatever date, and one or the other agreed to prior dates, and one or the other said I'm not available because of trials or whatever on all those prior dates. So this isn't just one side trying to drag this out or another. This was a mutual ongoing conversation after we had heard that mediation failed and they wanted to bring it back before the board. And so if I misspoke or gave a misimpression, I apologize for that. Commissioner Hoag, when you say that it won't change your mind, you mean change your mind in regards to having this matter brought back before the board so that you guys can listen to the information and make an informed decision based upon the evidence that's presented, correct?
I have seen a few new proposals as far as the access into the property, which in my mind were ridiculous and would create more damage to the environment than the proposed that we've received from Land Services. So I don't know what more they can present to us. There's really one way in and one way out. I just don't want it to become a stalling tactic as well. And we just owe it to these people to get this thing resolved so they can move forward. As you've heard, this individual has more use of their property than they do, and that's just not right. So the quicker we can get them access to their property, the better. And we've got April, if we reach him middle of March, let's shoot for a April meeting, and I guess if it's that important to them, they'll be here. But if we keep letting lawyers set the agenda for this, I'm afraid it's going to be another 10 years.
Well, I don't think it'll be another 10 years, and I like a good lawyer joke as much as everyone else, and we can pick on them, but there's a lot of mutual back and forth on this. So
Yep.
I understand what the board has asked me to do, and I will do my best.
Thank you. Now, where were we? Oh, county administrator.
There was no senior management team meeting, so there is no report.
All
Thank
right.
you. Nothing further from our office.
Any additional business?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to announce that today is International Women's Day, and out of respect for the other half of the population in the world, thank you for everything that you folks do to keep us men in the right order.
With that.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, before that, I just want to thank Commissioner Barrows for bringing that up. I want to thank him for serving on Sourcewell, and I just want to overall thank Commissioner Barrows.
Thank you, Commissioner Coring.
All right, now I lost it. We had a motion by Commissioner Barrows, second by Commissioner Francine for adjournment. Trees.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. We are adjourned.
Amen.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Ready, Linda? Yes. I don't know if he's funner in person or online. Have a good day, everybody.
You guys too. It's confusing, Don, that this attorney standing here today saying that they'd like it moved up.